Are you a dungeon master who feels like they never get a chance to be a player? Or maybe you and your friends are new to D&D and you volunteered to step up and run the game. Well, guess what? You're a player too. Welcome to Geek Philosophy, where we explore our love of geeky wisdom. We release new videos weekly, so don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of our content. If you're new to the channel, my name is Brian, and if, like me, you've had some frustration from time to time about being the DM for a group and never being able to play a character that you've had in mind for a while, well, I have a few options that may help you out, so let's get rolling. Sometimes it's easy to forget that there are multiple roles to play in a role-playing game. Sure, multiple roles in the party, but even more roles to play to flesh out the whole campaign world. So, could you include one of your own player character ideas as an NPC in the party? Yeah, you could. The benefit to this option is that you could play your character pretty quickly. You've had it in mind for a while and you get to just do it. No need to check with another DM if the character type fits their story or their campaign world because you know it. But it's important to remember that the PCs are the heroes of the story. So don't let your new favorite NPC that you're playing as a player character kind of take over the spotlight, win the day, or save everyone at the last minute. I can admit this can be a little tricky, and you may develop a tendency to favor your own character sometimes. So it may be beneficial actually to try my next couple of options first, then build up your skills until you feel comfortable running an NPC as a party member. One great addition to 5e was the development of the Sidekick rules. They've been fleshed out even more in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and it's a great mechanic to get your fix when it comes to playing a character in the game. In Tasha's, they give you a few options on who will play the sidekick character. A player could play the character as a second character, or a player could actually play it as their only character if they want a simplified way to play the game. The players could also team up and share the responsibility of playing the sidekick, or you could even have some kind of an amalgam of the DM role-playing the character and the players handling all the combat. Or you could just make and play this character sidekick for yourself and have them be a member of the party. It's a great option as a one-shot adventure without too much development of the character over time, but for a campaign, you could think of that sidekick character as your own member of the group. With the rules in Tasha, you can level that sidekick up as the other player characters are leveling up as well. But the good thing is the sidekick will never be as powerful as the other PCs. So this will give you the feel of playing with the group without taking a whole lot away from it, and that's the key. Even with the limited rule set, don't take the spotlight away from the other players. So here's my favorite way of doing it without having to go down the slippery slope of taking away things from your players. For longer campaigns, I think DMs sometimes forget that the rest of the world advances along with the player characters. Sure, the PCs are leveling up and gaining equipment and meeting new people and having all kinds of adventure. But aren't some of your NPCs doing that too? I mean, sure, some of them are leading a mundane life of non-adventure, but even the local innkeeper could have things happening in her life, right? Maybe she's met new interesting people who stayed at the inn as they were passing through town. Or maybe she's reading books and trying to improve her knowledge of the world. Or gaining new skills, or whatever. If you've been using the Geek Philosophy Campaign Planning Guide, or just using the encounter and encounter response question method, then you'll remember that I include encounter responses for the NPCs. Sometimes these may not be needed, especially if the creatures or the NPCs don't make it out of a combat encounter. But if they got away, or the news traveled to other NPCs who were in charge, or it was a social encounter that continued some discussions behind the scenes, I highly recommend completing those encounter response questions for those NPCs too. For those of you who aren't familiar, here are the encounter response questions. Number 1, what is the emotional reaction of the character? 2, what does the character think will happen next? And 3, what is the final choice of the character? This helps guide the development of those characters throughout the course of the campaign. And you might have recognized, if you're watching our Relics of the Ancient campaign, that I work these in after every encounter, and if we ended the encounter at the end of a game, I even set some homework for the PCs to answer it in an email if I need to. Sometimes I can get the feel of it just through conversations with the players, and the PCs are kind of covered. But what I do is also answer those for the NPCs who are involved with the players. Remember, even the villains, the most interesting villains, consider themselves the heroes of their own story. So run them that way. It's your opportunity to consider them your characters in a similar way as the players view their own characters. It really helps you increase your enjoyment, and it makes them less one-dimensional because they're kind of reacting the way they would. Just, again, don't let it take things down the wrong path with your game. Always lean on the side of having the players have fun, because you're going to have fun if they do too. So thanks again for watching, and I'd like to leave you with a quote from the late, great Terry Pratchett. It's a little bit of dark humor, and if you haven't read the Discworld series, you may be missing out, but let's contemplate this little bit of geek philosophy. Build a man a fire, and he's warm for a day, but set him to fire, and he's warm for the rest of his life. Cheers.